Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. I apologize for not having a Market Monday last week. I did, however, upload a few videos over at the Rogue Market channel. So if you are a fan of these type of videos, I highly suggest you go subscribe to my second channel that is exclusively market related. We talked about Teysa Karlov as well as Judith from the Ravnica Allegiance spiking prices throughout Magic the Gathering, which makes me think that there is a pretty good commander scene going on, meaning that Arena might be bringing new players to the paper scene, and their first little introductory is something different that they can't play in Arena, which is Commander. At least that is my theory of what's going on. So I'm expecting a lot of cards, a lot of Commander staples to start going up in value. If we actually check Card Kingdom, there are a lot of Commander staples from Cyclonic Rift to Sidisi's to some of the tutors that are all starting to go up, and especially from sets like Battle Bond, that if those are the first cards that are starting to actually go up rather than more of the competitive based cards. So we'll talk about that in this week's episode, but you can definitely go check out the Rogue Market for more on the Teysa Karlov and the cards that I think are going to go up that are lacking behind because of Judith and Teysa. All right, so this week the main focus of this video is going to be talking about Masters 25 and why I think it's a good time to get in Masters 25. Now, there has been a lot of flack, a lot of back and forth. I've decided to remain as positive as possible to my criticizers. I'm like anyone else. If you read through just a bunch of negative comments, and especially when they aren't really representing your points, it really gets frustrating. Especially when I think I've backed up my claims with solid evidence. But once again, we're going to go kind of regurgitate the Masters 25, how it's flattened line out, starting to go up. I made a claim that you should probably, instead of buying 2 Ultimate Masters, try to buy 2 Masters 25, and you'd actually make out better. And lo and behold, that is pretty much the case. As of February of 2019, we have 2 Masters 25 will net you a TCG mid box value of around 100 or 170. So you times that by 2, it's about 340. And the Ultimate Masters with the box topper will be about 335. And again, the box topper has a lot more of a fluctuation. You can end up getting a really terrible box topper and that box value goes way down. You can get a really good one. Of course, that box value goes way up. You can check and see here about $90 of the almost a third of the value of Ultimate Masters comes from that box topper. And I'm thinking in 2019, that is going to be the big hits. I'm thinking Masterpieces, Expedition, Judge Foils, box toppers, all of those things, all the things that used to be very, very special are going to lose their specialness because we do have a full product line, in my opinion, coming out of more and more of these type of cards. We saw the Ravnica Allegiance basically be quadrupled, probably even higher, of the amount of Ravnica Allegiance Masterpiece boxes that were sold compared to Guilds of Ravnica. And so they ramped it up and ramped it up and ramped it up. Basically had an unlimited amount of those until the market became cold. They kept restocking it. They were very weird with the way that they put it on eBay, let it sell out to cause a little bit of panic with demand, and then they'd throw up another 1,000 and let those sell out, and then throw up another 1,000. And every time people think, okay, this is the end, I better get in, and it ended up selling a ton more product than they probably would have if they would have originally put up like 20,000. So anyway, that's kind of what going forward. I think that they're going to try to cut out the secondary market as much as possible by giving people versions of cards to have them chase rather than spending singles elsewhere. So that for that aspect of like the specialness of the box toppers, the expeditions, those are things that I personally am not a fan of touching. I think that they're going to lose their specialness like we saw with Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon as they began to release more and more. Instead of full art, it's full art foil with a little bit. Magic is getting to that point, and I just don't like the quote-unquote specialness of these type of cards. So if we look at Masters 25, it's got a nice increase of value. If we look at Ultimate Masters, it actually has a flatline or the exact opposite. If we come over here to Masters 25, it is starting to go up in value quite significantly. So it had its bottom here about right when Ultimate Masters came out of 524. It's already up to about the 570. So that's a really good increase here in the last few months, meaning the bottom is done, and we're going to actually start seeing some card prices go up in value. If we come over here and we look at the box value, or just the price value of the Ultimate Masters, you can also see that we are now at the all-time low of what Ultimate Masters is worth. Ignore this little spike, little dip here. This is really, I think it had a twofold. The day of the release when people were allowed to put a bunch of cards on, and I think Crystal Commerce also went offline right here. The only time you see these big, I think this was across the board on MG Goldfish's website. You got to keep this in mind whenever you see these big dips, and it's not exclusive to like Ultimate Masters. It's just the entire TCG platform. It's usually when Crystal Commerce goes offline. So I mean, it could be wrong there, but we did have this supposed recovery here, and it has just gone downhill since then. So we're almost under the $1,000 set value mark, which I think that we will probably hit by the end of February. And then I don't know where the flat line or the ultimately the low will be for Ultimate Masters, but I think that we're nearing it because there isn't a lot of supply left of these. However, the supply was very, very high for these cards, and so these type of cards are going to continue to still trickle in as people continue to open the Ultimate Masters. But again, that's going to run out, and then I do think there will be a chance for recovery for the set. So again, it's not doom and gloom for the set. I never said it's a bad set. I never said it was an uninvestable set. It's still one of the better sets in a long time because it's able to hold its value. You can still get your box value if you buy it at MSRP, which is basically unheard of in the state of Magic the Gathering, where the vast majority of products just continue to depreciate and actually get like halved or even higher from their MSRP. I mean, you just look at the Masters 25, for example. That's way lower than the MSRP was for the set. However, a little bit of shameless self-promotion. I'll actually be doing a video for what we call the Pirates Plunder Picks, which I will analyze what I would buy utilizing my Pirates Plunder tier over at Patreon. Also, people that aren't a fan of Patreon, I do have a way to set up a recurring payment if you want the benefits of being a Rogue Deck Builder Club member. So what we do for the Pirate Plunder is we allow all of our patrons, all of our supporters to buy stuff at distributor pricing. So we don't have a limit on like sleeves and card accessories. People can order them to their heart's content. All you have to pay for is the distributor price plus shipping, and we will ship you that stuff. And we also have different tiers of allowing people to purchase 6, 12, 18, unlimited amount of products directly from the distributor at cost, plus shipping for things like booster boxes and guild kits and whatnot. Ultimate Masters was something that was available. We sold over 100 booster boxes of Ultimate Masters to my patrons. So be looking for that if you do want to be part of a growing community. It's kind of the future of how we have to compete with online as a local game store or as a content producer. I'm not one that really cares to beg for e-beg for money, but with dwindling, especially Q1 is so terrible for YouTube ad revenue, it's something that does still incentivize me keeping this website open or this YouTube channel open and kind of the Magic the Gathering channel going. Gives me a little bit of an incentive. Anyway, that's enough of the shameless self-promotion with that. I do think for Pirates Plunder, though, I will be picking Masters 25. Now, let's back that up with kind of the evidence here. Again, you see Ultimate Masters, we see Tarmogoyf, Liliana, a bunch of these still going down in their daily. Weekly looks to be down on MTG Goldfish here, but most of these prices, I'll have to pull up the sheets again. There's not a lot of change. It seems like when one thing goes down, something does go up a little bit. The things that are recovering the most, though, from Ultimate Masters do tend to be some of the Commander cards have started to tick back up, and some of the heavily played cards from Modern have started to tick back up. But there are a bunch of cards that are still going down in value, and this price isn't very representative of the market price of a lot of these cards. Some of these cards are quite misleading. I think Lord of Extinction was one of them I found for really cheap on market price the other day. It looks like it has rebounded, though. But yeah, it's definitely go check out Market Price and other venues. These cards can still be had at pretty low cost. So let's go back over to Masters 25. The big distinction I like from Masters 25 and Ultimate Masters is really this uncommon slot seems to be recovering quite quickly. So you have cards like Utopia Sprawl that have gone up, I believe, double since their low. So it got down about $2.50 and is now back up to $3.50, which is a good sign that uncommons can recover. Usually, if we still have a lot of high supply, these type of cards get crushed for the long term, and then it takes a really long time for them to go back up. So, card like Utopia Sprawl already going since the low from 240 to 340 is a pretty good sign. We go over here to some of the other uncommons like the Ancient Stirrings and the Bolt, and I'm actually surprised with both of these have been able to do very similar. So we've gone from the $1.50 to $3 for Ancient Stirrings, and that's even with, didn't Ironworks play it? I'm not sure if Ironworks. So there's plenty of decks that are playing the Ancient Stirrings in the deck, and we also see that Lightning Bolt, even though this is a card that has also recovered from $2.25 to $3. So that's very interesting with cards out of Masters 25 being able to go back up in value. And also we are looking at cards like Simian Spirit Guide and Street Wraith that have had very similar, or at least now they are starting to recover. So Street Wraith came out, got completely dumped on at $2.50, and now is really starting to recover. So that's a good sign for the whole set. I think we're going to see very similar with the Simian Spirit Guide shortly, as this one's going to start to recover in value. But that's what I like about Masters 25. It's actually not as bad of a set as a lot of, of course, comparatively to Ultimate Masters, it's not nearly as good a set, but the price point was cheaper. So keep that in mind with it, and the price point right now is much cheaper. The cheapest you're going to be able to find Ultimate Masters booster box is probably in the $335s to $375s at the moment. I can still get you Iconic and Masters 25, I believe at $142.50 is my price after like the credit card processing fees and things like that, all the fees out the door. It's gonna be $142.50 plus shipping is how much I can get Masters 25, and right now that's not a terrible value. If we go back over to Scryfall, or excuse me, Dawnglare, you still will be, I mean, you'll be up a little bit if you're going to be cracking boxes, if you're going to try to be gaining the TCG mid from it. Of course, if we go to low, that paints another picture of, yeah, Masters 25 at 110, you'd still be losing money quite significantly at TCG low. But mid, which low and mid, can have some discrepancies, but usually it's somewhere in between there is what the market price is. So between 110 and 168, yeah, you're probably about breaking even on cracking Masters 25. So what I'm trying to say though is this window will close eventually. These type of booster boxes have proven to us in the past to be able to recover. Even the dumpster fire that was Modern Masters 2015, let me repeat that, people hated that set. I still remember having a hard time after that initial wave of really selling Modern Masters in 2015 and how it tanked. And it took a good 2 years for that set to really recover. And then after Modern Masters 2017 is really when Modern Masters 2015 started to recover. Same thing with the Eternal Masters. It was an okay received set, but it also had its problems once that second wave was dumped on us. And I think that Iconic Masters and Masters 25 will actually be looked back as pretty decent sets overall. I mean, they were just... The problem with Iconic Masters and Masters 25 is they came out right after Modern Masters 2017, which held nothing back and reprinted Fetchlands, reprinted Liliana, Tarmogoyf, all those things. And they gave us these two lackluster sets called Iconic Masters and Masters 25 that did have some good stuff in them. We're still looking at cards like Cryptic Command that existed in these type of sets. So I do expect a recovery on both of these, and I think that window of getting those booster boxes at kind of the distributor price of $142-ish, where... that's still, 40% of MSRP or whatnot. I can't remember what exactly the MSRP of these two sets were, but that's still way, way below. That window is going to close. So hit me up if you're interested in those, and we can work out a deal if you are interested in cracking mass boxes of these master sets. They are still something that you can get your hands on. So Masters 25, again, looking at the uncommons, that's pretty good. The funny thing that I like to always look at is Tree of Redemption. This is the card that nobody wanted, and it's actually one of the cards that recovered the most out of Masters 25, which also shows me that the commander is in a really good place if a card like Tree of Redemption, because this card doesn't see any play outside of casual or commander. None whatsoever. Well, now I say that there's a Madcap Valakut that somehow is using a Tree of Redemption. I don't know where this list showed up. That's kind of funny though. Not in the main list though. So someone has snuck one of these in at one point in time. But anyway, even like a mythic like Tree of Redemption is recovering. That's a good sign. The least expensive mythic now is something like Prosh, which eventually will go back up in value. And we just have a lot of cards in the uncommon, even common slot, that are starting to do well. A lot of popper staples in this particular set. A lot of cards like even Cultivates and Arcane Denials, Counterspells, Relentless Rats. All of these will add to the box value when you're actually cracking them and trying to recoup back your profit margin from them. So I am pretty bullish on the Masters 25. Iconic Masters seems to be lagging behind a little bit more, but it also does seem to start to have the recovery. We have Mana Drain that's starting to look very similar to what we saw with the Eternal Masters. So let's go back over to Eternal Masters. What card? Mana Crypt, I believe, is what I'm thinking of. So if you go over here to Eternal Masters, you can see like some of these cards just go crazy. That did go way down at one point. So from its bottom of Amonkhet to about Our Devastation, and I think that this is about our let's see. So we have Iconic Masters that came out in. So we had October is when it came out. It flatlined in January. So a year later. Was this a year later flat with... So we have a year... Yeah, it was about flat for a year as well. This is very similar. It did start to go up a little bit more, but it did seem right after its year mark is where the Eternal Masters cards, the high demand ones, especially the commander cards, went crazy. And Mana Crypt, of course, is a high demand commander card. And I would say that the Mana Vault... or Mana Drain is very similar to this. Mana Drain is a high-demand commander card, and it seems to have almost that exact same tick if we look at that. Look at that here. So it's that year mark, and then it had that little tick up right here and right here. And so we're seeing that start to happen with these type of cards. Already covered $10 from its low. Not too shabby. If we go over to even cards like Horizon Canopy, same thing. This card has recovered quite a bit since its low, and it's about its year mark, and had a little bit of price adjustment here, started to go back up after Ultimate Masters and flatten back out, because this is a card that got a lot of made a lot of decks cheaper from Ultimate Masters, but Horizon Canopy definitely still is one of the cards that was expensive to pull. So, I mean, those type of cards are holding the vast value of Iconic Masters. They might actually be the ones that are lagging the most. But even cards like Aether Vial and Cryptic Command have a ton of play. As an Angel Hope in Pauper, Bloodghast is still one of the cards that I picked not too long ago for a card going up after Ultimate Masters, and it does seem like it has been going up. Elish Norn, great card. Thoughtseize, one of the most played cards in Modern. And Consecrated Sphinx, one of the most played cards in Commander. Flusterstorm, Sheoldred. Lots of good stuff packed through here. So now is about the time, in my opinion, to really, if you are going to pull the trigger on these type of sets, to pull the trigger on these type of sets. So let's go ahead and look at one more time before. It's not going to be the longest Market Monday video here. We'll look at Taste of Karlov, and definitely go check my video out over the Rogue Market. We go through 10 cards. But this is another good sign of cards, not only cards that are old, but cards that are holding value just because they're going in these type of decks. So we have like Priest of Forgotten Gods. It goes in a couple decks in Standard, but mainly this is just Teysa creating demand for the Priest of the Forgotten Gods. But if you start looking through a lot of these cards, like the Howled Spirit Keeper, for example, look at what Teysa's done to these things. Everything across the board have just gone crazy because of Teysa. So it's a 50-cent card into a $6 card. And I wish I would have been more into Magic Finance. I tend to take these big chunks of breaks, and this is just one I didn't. We started building Teysa. I built that onto the Hightower deck thinking that people would actually pick it up and play it, when I probably should have been focused on Teysa. Usually it's just one or two commanders that do tend to get the nod of what everyone wants to build, and Teysa definitely was the big winner from the Ravnica Allegiance. See what's going on with... There we go. So Ravnica Allegiance, if we look at it, the top played commander by far is Taste of Karlov, then Nakia, the Old Ways. So that's actually about half the value. This is actually interesting to look at Nakia of the Old Ways to see exactly what the decks are being built. Maybe we'll focus on that since I focused on the cards that were out of Teysa in another Rogue Market video. So yeah, it's just across the board, like all of these cards. I picked some of the cards like Ponavul Monk's foils and Pitilus Plunderer's foils as great cards that I think are going to be outstretched and go up in value. But even like looks like Grim Harrispec, look at the difference between TC Player and Card Kingdom is getting quite substantial. So I really like to be hyper-focused on Card Kingdom because Card Kingdom has a different market than the rest of Magic the Gathering. We have places like Star City Games and Channel Fireball, specifically those two, that are very, very focused on the more competitive play. They release a bunch of competitive articles, they sponsor a bunch of competitive pros, and therefore their marketplaces tend to selling more competitive cards. Card Kingdom was like one of the first one to really capitalize on the casual player. They sponsor the Magic Man Sam, they sponsor Tulare Community College, they sponsor the Command Zone, they sponsor a lot of these. They sponsor like Scryfall, they sponsor even EDH Rec, and it gets a lot of eyes on their casual cards, and therefore it leads to a lot of casual sales. And if you see Card Kingdom selling for something like that is, 3 times the value of what it's going on TCG Player, you know that there's probably going to be a TCG Player that's eventually going to be outstretched the way that Card Kingdom was by the casual crowd. So it's a good way to get ahead of price spikes. So something like Grim Haruspex that is currently going for 65 cents, we can pull it up on TCG Player to see how many copies are here. This could be one that is starting to go back up. Now, probably not. This Owl Central Games has 49 of them, shipping including for 111 of them. That doesn't tend to be, I mean, we might be able to just find a price discrepancy here, what we call arbitrage. So let's see what you can sell your Grim Haruspex. Woo, look at that. It's almost worth it. So you can sell your Grim Haruspex for 45 cents if you're looking to trade it for Card Kingdom. One of these days I'm going to have to show you my kind of the thing I've got going on with Card Kingdom. I've not only bought cards from Card Kingdom and sold them their cards directly back as store credit and rinse and repeat, and just built up a phenomenal amount of store credit. And all it was required was a little bit of shipping one way to do this. So you can play this type of game, but you can also play this sort of arbitrage game with TCG Player and Card Kingdom. So, I mean, I find price discrepancies all the time. Something that I bought on Card Kingdom the other day, it was a Pauper staple. I think it was like the Palace Sentinels that I was getting for $0.25 a piece and then selling them for $1 a piece. So that you have that sort of arbitrage one way, but you also have it the other way. So the Grim Haruspex right now for 45 cents, it's almost worth, like, so if this is a little bit down, say if this was 39 cents, you could buy out all these cards from Owl Central Games at free shipping, and then ship them directly off to Card Kingdom and make 45 cents. You make 10 cents per it. You find a bunch of those type of copies, and it might be worth it. But in my opinion, this just might be worth it just to buy out the Owl Central Games of the Grim Haruspex. Yes, there is a ton of supply left with this card, but it does look like the demand from Card Kingdom is pretty high itself for this card, because they are wanting a whopping 268 of these. So, I mean, they are all in on this card. It must be selling very, very hot. Teysa, Judith, it probably goes in both of those decks, and the Grim Haruspex is definitely on their radar of what they want. So I think Card Kingdom does it two ways. I'm sure that they have someone that oversees their buy list, but a lot of their buy list and their sell list is definitely automated through a little bit of an algorithm of, they sell cards, that bumps up the price. If they haven't sold a card in a while, it bumps down the price. It's also good to know too, because if formats are cold like Modern and Pauper, it's definitely great to buy. Sometimes Card Kingdom is by far the cheapest place on the internet, and then you just wait until inevitably. Magic is so cyclical. It goes in patterns. There's a lot of times with Standard when the sets are drafted, that's the best time to get into them. And then, of course, the supply will be cut off, and then a set will rotate, and then all of a sudden these will be the cards that are more rare than the new set, and they go back up. The same thing can be said for like Pauper and Modern and Commander. They all have their seasonal effects. Pauper tends to pick up and Modern tends to pick up when Standard becomes stale. And usually Standard becomes stale towards the end of the Standard before rotation, or it also becomes stale if it just has a bad meta. And so again, there's definitely cyclical times to get in and out of Magic the Gathering, and utilizing this sort of arbitrage, we say, is very, very important with sites like Card Kingdom. So I don't know. This is interesting though, because this card does tend to go up quite quickly, but you can see the supply is very, very high. Let's just chop it down to 4 or more on TCG Player to give us a better picture of how much supply we're actually working with. It does look like there's a lot of them. Even Wild Things Games has 20 copies at 41 cents with a little bit of shipping and whatnot. So a ton of these cards left. Does look like 2 pages. So I don't know. Usually this is just a little bit of insight of how I gauge how much supply there is. I'll check how many pages, kind of the price increase. But kind of funny with Grim Haruspex, if 2 pages are bought out with this particular card, which I'm not suggesting, Khans of Turkir just has so much supply. The next card that is posted there, it goes all the way from 30. I guess it's got this nice little up to $1, but yeah, if it were bought out, then you could probably make a pretty penny. Man, all of this is 2 pages are cheaper than Card Kingdom. Anyway, so I'd probably pass on that particular card, but that still is a very interesting different price discrepancy between the two. You can see that Zulaport Cutthroat, same thing. I believe Card Kingdom was paying 25 cents for Zulaport Cutthroats. They're actually out of stock. Oh, that's a different version. Okay, that's Game Nights. So go to Battle for Zendikar. Yeah, they have plenty of them. See what they're paying for Zulaport. 30 cents. 30 cents for Zulaport Cutthroat, 39 cents for credit. And so you come back over here to the TCG Player, and then see that they are selling for about 37 cents. I'm sure that you might be able to find an event. Whoa! Now that is very interesting. That is very interesting that 4 or more, there's only 3 listings for 4 or more. And then Wasteland Games has 520 of them for 35 cents a pop. That's very interesting right now, because you slightly could, you could break even with increasing it to Card Kingdom, but that is pretty low. Let's take away this 4 or more and see if Zulaport Cutthroat's about ready to crack. 1 page is Zulaport Cutthroat from, and this is, oh, never mind, this is the Game Nights. This is the Game Nights. Definitely check that out. So it seems like there's probably tons of these. So that vendor opened up enough to make 520 Zulaport Cutthroats. What were they selling out of Game Nights that was making them a profit? Was there something that they could just crack and then rinse and repeat with Game Nights? There must have been. I know that Game Nights had like Galta, but okay, there's plenty of pages for Zulaport Cutthroat. So you don't have to worry about this card. That would have been crazy if the would have been out of stock there. So Revel and Riches, though, this was one, though, that Card Kingdom was paying a lot more, and now TCG Player is matched back up. I did call Yahenni. I do like Yahenni as a potential investment. Again, you can just kind of check out these price discrepancies. $249 for Tesa. I think they've moved that up. $710 on TCG Player. This will come out in a guild kit. There are a lot of cards that you can start looking at these and see if they're about ready to pop. This one's a good one, Dictate of Erebos. This has actually gone up recently since last time I looked at it in my market video. So anyway, let's just kind of change gears here, last but not least, and kind of do this with Nakia. Is that how I say Nakia? Nakia of Old Ways. Look at the cards that are being played the most in Nakia. Ignore the new ones because new ones aren't going to have enough demand. So signature cards, Rurik Thar. It was in Masters 25. I believe it also, Rurik Thar was the guild kit at the time, intro pack, whatever you wanted to call it, from Dragon's Maze. And so this one is, to me, is a little bit not investable. It's just how much supply it's out there. The Soul of the Harvest also was in a welcome deck. So both of those are something that I would not really put too much stock into because of Nakia. Fauna Shaman, probably not because of Ultimate Masters. But then we have the 4th one down the road. Vizier the Menandry. This is something that I really like to look at. So we pull up TCG Player and we pull up Card Kingdom. We can kind of see the price discrepancies about, they're paying almost probably what, 100% more is what it will cost you. Yeah, so $350 on TCG Player and yes, a whole full $7 on Vizier the Menandry. So this means that the algorithm from Card Kingdom is definitely favoring Vizier because they've probably sold a ton. So whatever the automation of what that is with the prices that they have in their pricing system has said, hey, Vizier is selling. It sold at 5, it sold at 6, let's bump it up to 7. It's probably still selling at 7. Let's see what they're actually paying for Vizier of Menandry. $4. So they're actually paying more than you can get it on TCG Player. So this is a great opportunity for arbitrage if you can find them shipping plus that is free. Usually have to do that. Like the best way to do that is to come over here with item price, come over here and item price only, and then try to find some with low shipping. So it doesn't seem like you can make it profitable to go from buy list or buy from Card Kingdom to directly buy list to or buy from TC Player to buy list to Card Kingdom, but it's not that far off. I mean, you're what, losing 87 cents here? There is a ton of pages though, ton of pages with this card. And I think there's a lot of 1-ofs though. So if we go back over to 4 or more, see if that's more than a full page of 50. Only 1 full page of 50. That's not bad. That's not bad for Vizier. A couple of these are foils. Not a lot of foils on TCG Player, at least for 4 or more foils. But if we look over here with 4 or more prices, the cheapest one is around $5 a piece, which is there is still a discrepancy between the two. So I don't know. That one's kind of interesting. That'd be a card that I keep my eye on with Vizier. It's been a card that I've liked for some time. I know I did invest in Vizier's, a small investment. We're saying 20 plus copies, I think, of Vizier after it rotated because this card completely bottomed out. It was a card I was getting for extremely cheap. So keep in mind, definitely take a look at this card. Keep it on your radar. Primal Sage. Now that one is very interesting because I don't remember this card actually even ever being that expensive, but it's already up to the $2 mark. Genesis Hydra seems to be played quite a bit, but had an Iconic Masters reprinting. We did talk about Iconic Masters starting to go up. Very interesting. Another thing I like to do with if looking at EDH cards is to see how many decks this runs in. 7,098 is pretty significant. It's used in some very, very popular commanders like Omnath, Krufix, Selvala, Animar. And yeah, that's a good sign that another card is going to start outstretching it. So this card I would give a little bit of nod for a card that is potentially investable is a Genesis Hydra. I believe it did have a promo printing. Let's actually check it out here of how many printings it did have. So we had the View All version. We have Iconic Masters. We have the Magic 25, and we do have a media promo. So keep that in mind. There is quite a bit of supply, and all that comes into effect when you're investing in cards. The Magus of the Candelabra being played in plenty of decks and is pretty low on Battle Bond. You can buy this at bulk rare price. That's interesting. This, again, something you'd click on. Played in only 1,258 decks, though. Does see play in some of these big mana decks. Interesting card. In the long term, Battle Bond still has a ton of stock. We go over here to, which is drying up though. There's only like one distributor that has these in stock anymore, which if you are interested in Battle Bond, again, that's another reason to sign up for my Patreon to get cheap Battle Bond. I sell a ton of Battle Bond. We've probably sold how many cases worth of Battle Bond in my patrons. It definitely is a very, very hot product. So this is kind of how I just like to look through it. The ones that I really like to find is kind of these low demand or low supply cards. I don't like the price point of this Heartwood Storyteller, for example. But if sometimes you find this like obscure low demand card, then this is the first time it's really seeing play. That's a great time to pick it up because there are sometimes these cards go crazy. Gruul Rage Beast, for example. That's not a terrible spec if it's in 51% of 139 decks. That means that, I mean, right here from EDH Rec, there's been 60 copies, about 70 copies that have been pulled off the market for just people that have put this on the list. And it's a Dragon's Maze rare. Not a terrible thing. Definitely keep your eye on a card like that. And at bulk rare price, you can find these for 5 cents. That's when it's actually pretty decent to get into them. Not a lot of crazy things here. The Archetype of Endurance from Born of the Gods. Wow, that card has just gone up. I wonder if Born of the Gods will ever be investable because of Archetype of Endurance. But that's a pretty expensive little uncommon. Goreclaw is there. You see this price discrepancy between Goreclaw. Nullstone Gargoyle is a card that I've always loved. This is a card that I don't know. I think it's about ready to pull the trigger on Nullstone Gargoyle. If we actually pick it up, I play it in a couple of decks. I think I've played it in Balfour the Defiled at some point. Not Balfour. It's the one that you can discard a card from your hand to get its mana cost as +X+X. Now, we'll see. We'll probably pull it up here with only 710 decks, though. So he's playing Mishra, Animar. It's a staple in my Animar deck. I don't know why more people don't run it in Animar. Yeah, Volarth the Fallen. I've had it in Volarth the Fallen before. But this is another deck. Rakdos is I believe, in the guild kits. Correct me if I'm wrong. Could be having more of these see play. Kozilek, stuff like this. Eventually, I like Nullstone Gargoyle. It's a pretty neat card in Commander. Again, I don't know why it's not played that much, just because I think it's very obscure. Whenever the first non-creature spell each turn is played, counter that spell. Really, really good way to shut down a lot of your opponents. Huge all-star in my Animar deck. It'd be one of my last cuts by far in Animar. But yeah, that's just kind of my routine. It's just really good to go down these things and try to find those low supply demand cards that are starting to get more demand because of Commander. If we look, though, why I tried to look at the Nakia of the old ways is something like Nullstone Gargoyle, for example. If we go back over to Teysa, so we come back over and look at Teysa. Teysa spiked up those similar obscure cards. So we did see that the Hallowed Spirit Keeper went crazy. We have cards down here. Even Midnight Reaper, I think this is more to do with Tesa going up in the past couple weeks than it is to actually seeing play in Standard. Another one that I like, Kokosho, the huge price discrepancy between Card Kingdom and the TCG player. And even cards like Dark Prophecy. This is a bulk rare card for I don't know how long and has started to go up because of Tesa. Athreos went crazy. Ogre Slumlord. Revelark is a great... I so wish I knew I should have bought these all out when they went down to 25 cents. And then we have even cards from Battle Bond that are starting to spike up in value from this. So there might be, of course, when something has double the demand, the prices, of course, are going to be double, at least the double the spikeability of the cards. Whereas Nakia, it's going to take some time. Some of these other sets, some of these other cards from Ravnica Allegiance and the others commanders are going to take some time, like Prime Speaker Vanifer or Lavinia. Judith, I'm really, really surprised that Judith sees as low play as this, because I think this is one of the more fun Rakdos commanders in a long time. It's kind of got the aristocrat built into the Blood Arse effect built into a commander, which I think is very interesting. I know it exists in other cards, but usually they're like higher mana cost than what Judith does. But anyway, definitely go in and scour through these lists, and when a new set is released, this is absolutely the thing that you should look at. I call it the Hepatra effect is the best way, because I think Hepatra was like the first commander that in my recent memory that really, really just spiked the price of way obscure cards, and a bunch of them went from 25 cents to like $6 overnight. And Taste is doing the same, and the next set, of course, I think will do the same. I really thought it was going to be Haunt of the Hightower because of it being a fun, interesting little card. It works off mill for black, but it looks like the people aren't having fun with the Haunt of the Hightower. It's actually one of my more fun decks to play in Commander. It is more casual. The power level is pretty low, so I won't play it when people are being degenerate, and I need to be, take care of degenerate things. But it's definitely a fun commander deck. I do have a deck list on my channel for the Haunt of the Hightower if you are interested in seeing how I built it. Anyway, I think that's enough for Market Monday this week. We'll have a Market Monday recap where I'll release that tomorrow, and I'll definitely look through all these cards, all these topics we talked about, and give you a top 10 list of cards, probably from Masters 25 / Nakia the Old Ways that I would invest in right now, of what we discussed here on the Market Monday. Also, be looking forward to another Google Sheets for cards that I will be selling. We were able to raise about $3,000 for my buddy's roof. Well, and we got the initial roof being done. It's fixed. Well, now it's time. The time has come for the bills to be paid, and we still need to come up with about $1,000 to $2,000 worth of cards. So I'll be creating another Google Sheets to make sure that we can get that paid off and get his life back on order. And yeah, we'll be probably ponying up a lot of standard cards to help that going. So if you want to help out a good cause and get something for cheap, we usually sell cards between TCG market price and buy list price is where I think is the best deal to give people something and still make us money. Anyway, this has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.